Welcome to the Art of Transitions. Today my guest is Kitty Bressington, and we're going to be taking her journey with her on becoming green. The name of our show today is Simply Green, so stay tuned and join us. Welcome back to the Art of Transitions. Our guest today is Kitty Bressington. Welcome, Kitty.
Thank you.
Nice to have you here.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Kitty is an associate of mine, and she and I have spent time in the past and in the present talking about becoming green. We hear a lot about the concept out today and what it really means to be green. So I asked Kitty if she would mind spending a little time with us and the viewing audience to really share how she made the journey from being more consumptive.
Correct.
Would that be a good word?
Yep.
To becoming conscious, socially conscious, and choosing a green way of life. I know Kitty from our professional life together, and she's a financial planner in the area, and she's also going to talk a little bit not only about green in the process, but actually green investing too at some point. If you would do that. Okay. Thanks again for coming.
Thank you.
Can you share with our audience what you mean by being green and simply green?
Really, for us, it's about making conscious choices. And everything from where does something come from that we purchase to how is it made, how does it impact us, and then finally how do we end up getting rid of it when we're done with it. And that comes from many, many years of growing up that way. As a Girl Scout as a child, you camped, you took everything in, you took everything out. My parents recycled, my father fixed, we stretched everything as far as possible. And now we're in a little different lifestyle, but it's still very basically the same principle. Shopping is a conscious choice of where do we get things. We buy a lot of clothes at consignment shops. Very often someone else bought them and still left the tags on, and now they're mine. It could be at the grocery store, picking something that doesn't have as much packaging. Where did it come from? Picking something organic is a challenge, because if it's organic and it came from another country, that means it had to get here somehow. Is it better off to shop at a local market or shop at a farmer's market? It's a little tougher up here in the north because, you know, you like your fruit in the winters, but that had to get here somehow. And I'm not a big fan of some vegetables, but they're in season, so you make adjustments. And it's about how you live your life. Could be using the library more than maybe buying books, although I do have a penchant for books. It could be, since I have that, we buy used books. We'll go to used bookstores instead of maybe just buying them right off the shelf at a local market or something. Something that somebody else used, you're getting a second life out of it.
You've given us a very big, broad definition of green, and even though you and I have spent time, I'm really learning some new pieces. One of the things that you and I chuckled about the other day as we were chatting was you actually said your first experience, or some of the first experiences of take out what you bring in concepts, really started with you and the Girl Scouts long before everybody was going green.
Oh, before the word was even in anyone's vocabulary. It really was part of a lifestyle, and that comes from, I think, a generation of parents that grew up being conscious of not having a lot. And you have that everywhere from a Depression era grandparents to parents who have been impacted by that. So it cycles through every generation, and every generation takes from it what they need to, and some maybe need to take a little more than others.
When did you actually get conscious? Truly, I mean, because you were growing up in this process. When did you become awake that it was important for you, or this, because I know that this is a passion for you.
Yes, it is.
When did you start getting the little inkling that it was, this is important?
It actually was much later in life. So many things that we did were just ingrained. But it wasn't until I was well out of college and on my own that I really became passionate about different things. You go through, I think, in a lot of people's lives, you go through a certain consumption phase, and you end up with stuff. And I had a period of time where I moved a lot. And stuff's hard to move. You have a lot of stuff, you got to move it multiple times, and after a while you started going, wow, you know, what is the long-term impact of this? And I think that was when I really started to do some research, do some reading, talk to other people, and just be a bit more conscious about the choices that I made. And the other thing that I really became passionate about was not just what we do with our money, but how we do it. And looking into the purchases, both from an investment standpoint and from a consumptive standpoint of how those dollars are being used.
And an environmental impact of what's going to happen to all the products once we're done with them.
Correct, correct.
So 28-ish, 30-ish, when you started moving many things?
Yeah, the late 20s.
And started to decide to travel a little lighter.
Travel a little lighter.
Any particular event that opened up your eyes the most?
I moved to France.
Okay, that opened up your eyes.
That was it was a lovely move, and I'm very glad we did it.
Now, where were you?
We were in D.C.
Okay.
And we ended up moving to France.
Okay.
Which means they come in and they box up all of your stuff in these great big huge crates that then are shipped overseas, and they get to the port where they are then trucked to the city. We were just outside Paris, where they then needed to be transferred and retrucked. And we got them to where we were and unpacked some of them. Some of them we never even unpacked. We then came back and we had to do the whole process over again. So we ended up with very, very large crates of a lot of things that I had lived without for over a year. And that was really an eye-opener, as what did I really need if I've been able to crate up a large number of my belongings and live without them for an extended period of time. And I think that was really a watershed moment when we started to look at different things and say, do we really need this? And if we do, great. If we don't, can someone else use them? We shed stuff every year to the Salvation Army and various other organizations, and so I think it's an ongoing process.
Did you notice as you moved from the States into Paris that the size of living space changed as well?
Extremely. They Europeans have and most of the rest of the world in general have a much more compact lifestyle. Everything from refrigerators that were, for a family, the size of the refrigerator I had in my dorm room, to just living space in general. Bedrooms are smaller, living rooms are smaller. Their level of importance on things is different. They treasure family and food and time together, and there isn't a lot of consumption from that aspect. You know, they are very happy with the older things, and they fix and they darn and they repair and
I haven't heard that
down.
word in a long time. That's funny. You would say darn. I'm like going, oh my God. I just haven't, even though I used to darn socks.
Darn yourself.
I did,
Yes.
It's interesting. Until you just said that, I haven't given that a thought in a while.
No. I think that was an experience that I really took to heart, and really have tried to incorporate the things that we learned over there in all aspects of our life.
Sounds very powerful.
It was great.
So you had you had an opportunity to live in Paris for a year. Now your husband is from
England.
And so you folks went over there, and you spent time. And what did you do when you were in Paris?
Not much.
That would
That
be
was
very
kind
nice.
of like an early retirement for me.
And then you came back and went to work.
Yes.
Yes.
But no, it was actually a small town outside of Paris.
Right.
And we walked everywhere, and we ate great food.
And that is very different too.
Very different.
Awful lot of walking in Europe.
Yes, you walk over, not just down to the bread shop, but we would walk a couple of miles to the bakery where our favorite pear tarts were. But I read a lot. I got to know the local people. I got to talk with them about what was important to them. So it was very relaxing for a while. But being young, it was difficult after a time. There's only so long you can stay inactive. So then we decided to come back, and we took those experiences and incorporated them into our life here.
What was some of the green technology that Paris was already, or that area was already using, that seemed like a natural fit for you?
A lot of things were different. Public transportation in all of Europe is so much more prevalent than we have here. Everything from the buses to the train system to the tunnel. I forget what it's called in Paris. The
tunnel? Oh.
No, well, the tunnel is a good example.
Yes.
That's the London to Paris line. A lot of houses don't have air conditioning. They have set their houses up so that air circulation is very important. And they have the shutters that are vented. Those close during the day to keep the hot sun out, but you still get the airflow through. You throw open the windows at night to get the cool air in. It was actually probably a whole year I went without being in a building that had air conditioning. They did have a little bit of a head start on us when some of their buildings were, built in the 16th century and walls this thick.
Of stone.
Of stone, yes. But that also means it gets cold in the winter.
Right.
Those stones are cold.
Right.
So they have, efficient heating systems and a lot of sweaters. Yeah.
And you brought that with you?
Yep. We keep our house a little cooler probably than the average person, and we don't have air conditioning. We did break down and put it in one room, a little window unit, but that's mostly because of the humidity, and there's not a lot of humidity in France. So
you traveled back to the U.S., resettled here.
Yes.
And you said you started doing more research.
I did.
You became hungry. Extremely.
And that hunger turned into a passion, I think. I think it now favorably colors just about every decision that we make. Just from the simple thing of reading the labels and where does something come from, to making a decision about buying a gas grill. We bought a gas grill last year. We wanted to buy something that was made in the U.S. because of the embodied energy that it takes to ship something from someplace else. And that's what we learned about shipping our stuff to France and back. That actually took a lot of research. There aren't a lot of gas grills made in the U.S.
Really?
But we found one, and that's what it took us a good couple of weeks of searching on the web and asking questions. And so big purchases are an adventure. They're about finding out, where do things come from? How is it composed? What goes into it? How did it get here? And then also making sure that we use our dollars wisely and buying something that's going to last us a good long time, because, again, that end piece of it is, where does it go when you're done?
Can you tell us, I think that's very powerful, because I'm not sure if folks really appreciate the pieces you've just put in place of shipping, where things are created, the energy and resources it takes to get things here. And when you're making those consumer choices, doing that kind of a mindset, so that's really powerful. If someone was, wanting or interested in looking, are there some simple tools they can start to do to save on the impact they're making on the planet and just be a little bit more conscious?
Sure. There's some very simple things, such as, these have been all over the news for quite a while, but change your light bulbs. That's extremely simple. Compact fluorescence, and these days the LED lights are much more available, and the quality is much better. We've been using the compact fluorescents forever. In fact, when we moved from our apartment to our house, I took the light bulbs. And we had them for a good number of years more after that. That was a choice that we made. At first, they weren't the same as incandescents. And that was, I can tell you from experience, my dad couldn't stand, they were a different color light.
So his transition incorporated, this doesn't work the same way.
This doesn't work for me, yes. But now they're a very similar light, and so he's made the change. He just had to wait for the technology to come along. But those are very simple things you can do. When a light bulb blows, replace it with something more economical or more friendly for the environment. Other things that we do is, most energy programs, be it RG&E or Niagara Mohawk or whatever, allow you to purchase your energy consumption with a dedicated source of either biomass or water or wind. There's usually a little surcharge, but by the time you've replaced your light bulbs, it pretty much evens out. Turning off lights when you're not in the room, those are things we heard as a kid.
Absolutely.
Turning off the water when you brush your teeth.
Right.
Turning the thermostat down a little bit. Those are all really simple things you can do every day.
I was at a retreat house, and they had a little sign that says, please, turn the water off as you brush your teeth, because the amount of water that would have gone through this particular system just in those few moments was anywhere between 6 and 8 gallons.
It's a lot.
That's an awful lot of water.
It's an awful
Fresh
lot of
water.
Yes. And water actually is a very precious resource. We're very fortunate in upstate New York. We live by the Great Lakes. We get great water sources. We have rain, we have great snow. But there are a lot of parts of the world where their entire lifestyle is changing because they don't have those things.
And I think we're going to see a very serious change as we continue to move forward.
It's a political issue now, too. And so I think that everyone needs to be conscious of how they use that resource.
What are some of the websites that you might recommend for someone in the audience who's just thinking about learning about becoming green or becoming more conscious?
Sure. One of the first ones I use, it used to be Co-op America, but now it's called Green America. That's kind of a general one, a place to start. And it's an organization that puts out its own yellow pages, and everything in there is an alternative way of doing things. Realgoods.com. That's another one. Real Goods is an organization that started out in California, very solar driven, but has since branched out into just a wide variety of all sorts of things.
Products
and services, and
services.
A lot of educational material.
Okay.
I get a lot of books from them. That would be my little book habit.
Yes.
But they are printed on recycled paper usually.
There you go.
But they have light bulbs, they have water filters, they have changing out your shower curtain. The vinyl shower curtains are terrible for the environment and for your health. So you have alternatives. You can get one made out of hemp that will last 20, 30 years.
Really?
In that time frame, you've gone through quite a lot of vinyl shower curtains. And where did those go? Those have to go in the trash, and they'll be there for many, many generations to come. So they have all sorts of things. So those would be the first place I start, and Google's a wonderful tool. I'm sure in a shameless plug for Google, but yes.
So just type in?
I usually type in, what am I looking for? Am I looking gas grill, U.S., steel? I don't want something plastic, or if I want light bulbs, compact fluorescence. If I want vegetarian recipes, foodnetwork.com, that sort of thing.
So be really creative, have a lot of fun on the web.
Oh, yeah.
Go search places that you can really open up.
Make it an adventure, and you never know where you find out. Yeah.
I also heard you say that you have particular books, and I know that you brought some along with you. Could you share with us a couple of your favorites?
Sure. One of my favorites is Socially Responsible Investing. It's by a woman named Amy Domini. And she actually started, I think not necessarily started, but she was very much at the forefront of the entire socially responsible industry as far as the investing and how are your dollars being used by companies who were taking them from you. Everything from shareholder activism to what kind of companies were being invested in. And there's a lot of different ways to do it. You can say, I don't want companies that are detrimental to rainforests. I don't want a very particular religious aspect. There's everything from the Ave Maria funds that take a very Catholic attitude to there are some out there now that are very environmental. So you can cross all sorts of types of philosophies with your investment dollars.
So we're looking again much bigger than turning and changing a light bulb, all the way to our investment dollars.
Correct. And
be very conscious. And the beautiful thing I think you really shared with us, Kitty, is the piece around this is about a conscious choice.
Yes, it's
conscious choice.
A lot of what we do is just making sure that you're educated about the choice that you're making. It's not to say you can't go, down to wherever and pick up that big plastic whatever, but you should know what happened. How did that get there, and where is it going afterwards? And if you choose to do that, fine, that fits into your lifestyle. But as long as you did that as a conscious choice.
When we talk about the art of transitioning and helping our audience understand that process, I really like the piece of understanding how it got there and where it's going to, because in the middle of that is really that place where you begin to challenge your normal, natural way of thinking and begin to wrestle with, what do I really want to do? How do I want to impact the culture? And with more and more of us every day, we are definitely making a larger and larger impact.
I think that's very accurate.
Other books, and I know you brought a magazine, and thank you.
Another one that I use kind of as just a reference guide is Green Living, the environmental magazine. It's called E-Magazine.
Okay.
Is out there. They also have a website, and they compiled just a lot of resources from all the articles that they've put together over the years. They, in their monthly magazine, they have a column on finances. They have a column usually on home. You need a new rug. What are you going to do? How are you going to, what type of product are you going to use in your home, and what are the impacts of that? So that's a really good reference guide. My little guilty pleasure is Natural Health Magazine. I just kind of like to see what's going on in the, makeup world or the clothing world or the food world. And then I had mentioned earlier Co-op America, which became Green America. They put out a quarterly little newsletter, and it's a different topic, and it's only about 6 or 8 pages, so it's very readable. There are times in our life when you want something that's not going to take that long to read, but be full of stuff.
A little smaller with great info.
There you go. There you go.
With great info.
So those are just some of the things, but there's a lot out there. There's local co-op stores that we shop at, and they have usually a wide variety of reading material and research stuff. And a lot of times it's just trying something different. It's, hey, we haven't tried this particular spaghetti sauce before. And it's about being conscious of what you're using.
Great. I would like to do the following, and that is I'd like to invite the audience. If you have any questions for Kitty, you will see on the front of the television set an address, an email address where you can reach her. And you're also welcome to reach her through our office at InSpirit at 585-225-1310 at any time. We'll connect you with her directly. And before we close, I want to thank you. You have made an impact on my life. You have helped me make some green changes and choices in my office, and you know that, and I thank you very much so.
It was a pleasure.
It's really great to have you here. I'm hoping that not only folks in our age bracket, but a lot of the younger folks as well, getting connected with you, especially as they're going to be the new caregivers of the planet.
Yes, in more ways than one.
Yes, they are. And so I'm hoping that they connect with you and find out wonderful ways that they can help this beautiful planet remain beautiful. We want to thank our viewing audience. And again, feel free to contact me at InSpirit, www.inspirit.com, if you would like to have any of the suggestions for television shows. Have a great day. Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kitty.
This program was produced through Penfield Community Television in Penfield, New York.